Hello and welcome to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones, and for this segment, I am joined by Rabbi Michael Zedek. Rabbi Zedek, you've met before on the podcast. He is the Rabbi Emeritus of my synagogue in Chicago. He's also the Rabbi Emeritus of his prior synagogue in Kansas City.
He made a career about retiring, yeah.
And he is also now the author of 2 books.
Not one, but two. 2 minutes in one.
2 books. And this year, I suspect one of his favorite things about 2025 was celebrating the publication of his new book, People Are Like, Stories for Young Readers and Readers Who Wish to Stay Young.
For those who are listening and watching, da-da-da-da-da!
Stunning.
Oh, by the way, I agree with you. I love this cover. I had nothing to do with it other than the approval of the illustrator. And if you're willing, a small story about how I found the illustrator?
Yes, please.
Okay. So my previous, oh boy, shameless here. My previous book, Taking Miracles Seriously, A Journey to Everyday Spirituality, which is still available on Amazon, second printing. Out of that book, I got an invitation to do a TED Talk. And the screens for TED Talks, as you may know, are quite remarkable and challenging. Mm-hmm. So the first screener said, send me an audio version of your TED Talk, of what you propose as your TED Talk. And so obviously I did. Came back with the following response. It's interesting, but it's not a TED Talk. And he sent me 3 examples of what he perceived as the style of a TED Talk.
Yeah.
It's acceptable. One of them, all right, I've already been immodest a little bit.
TED Talks are very prescriptive.
Yeah. I'll be immodest the second time. I don't think any of the speakers he sent for me to review were a better speaker than I.
No.
But one of them was illustrated, and I thought the illustrations were fabulous. I tracked down the illustrator. This is the person who did the illustrations for the TED Talk, and now for my lovely little book that I'm very proud of for a reason that I'll explain in a second. She was at the time in London. She's since moved back to Panama, which is her home. But in the meantime, I'm just, if anybody's interested in the book, get it for the illustrations. The stories are all right. Get it for the illustrations.
And the illustrator is Isabel Cristina Tejada Carrasco. What a beautiful name.
And that's only part of her name. But it all, by the way, one of the things I actually am proud of in terms of the book is that the cost of publishing was met by a philanthropist to the publisher such that proceeds will go to benefit scholarships for needy kids. I am making an enormous satisfaction from the book, but I will not receive a check of any kind other than the delightful check immaterial of hopefully making some differences in kids' lives.
Amazing.
I agree.
So I remember when this was just a Word doc. And you gave it to me, and you're like, I don't know, I think it needs like some illustration. You were kind of going like, how do I move it?
Yeah. Do you know anybody?
Did I know anybody? Because I at the time had just done a very I used Sharpie markers to illustrate.
I still have it, young lady. I still have it. Well, mention what you're talking about.
So I wrote a children's book inspired by. So when I converted to Judaism, and my dad was trying to make sense of it, he said, "Well, what if a Jewish family moved onto Miller Drive, which was this street in Terre Haute, Indiana, where everybody decorated for Christmas? It was a cul-de-sac." And he was like, "What would happen if a Jewish family moved in, and they got all these boxes of used Christmas lights, and this expectation that they decorate for Christmas, but they're Jewish and they're going to do Hanukkah?" And that was the question he asked me. And I turned it into a children's book, and I did these very rough and ready illustrations with a Sharpie marker.
It's a wonderful story, and boy, are they rough and ready.
I've been thinking about hiring an illustrator
No.
to really do it.
That's by the way, if you do this, the publisher Ascend Books, their real niche is young people literature. So
Okay.
let me know if we get to that place.
All right.
Or if you want, I'll introduce you to Isabel.
Ooh. No, I may take you up on that because her illustrations are so lovely. So what is the story? Wait.
What's the story behind the story?
What's the story behind the story? But I also wanted to say to TED Talk, to Ted,
Hi, Ted.
like, nobody else going to TED Talk wrote and gave a new speech every week for their whole career. So to turn and say to clergy who are writing new speeches on a near weekly basis, like, I don't know, you didn't know how to write a speech, is bananas to me.
Well, no, it was a little kinder.
Yeah.
It was that TED Talks have a specific style expectation, and what they did to my original, they narrowed it further and further and further down. I suppose in some ways it's a little bit of the nuance of attention spans have gotten less capable of maintaining more than one thought for a couple of minutes.
Yep.
So what was a suggestion of some of the themes in my first book, Taking Miracles Seriously, became one small piece of that book.
Yep. Great. So then,
By the way, if anyone's interested, YouTube, The Four Beautifuls is the TED Talk.
All right, I will link to it. So how does this book come to be?
Well, first, an event of many years ago, in my first iteration in the greater Kansas City area, I was teaching a bunch of 12 and 13-year-olds getting ready for their bat mitzvah, and I wanted to conclude my reflections with a story which unfortunately has an awful lot of currency in the present moment of our culture, our society, our world. And as soon as I launched into the story, a whole bunch of kids said, "Oh, I remember when you said that. I remember." Now, I had used that. I know people are going to find this hard to believe. I tried very hard not to repeat a story. And if I were to repeat a story, I would say, some of you may remember trying to get folks on my side, right?
Right.
So I had used that the story I'm about to suggest 4 years earlier on a Yom Kippur morning sermon, and these kids had no business listening. It was the conclusion. They were 8 years old.
Right.
What are they doing?
Right.
And son of a gun, they remembered the story. Now, they wouldn't have told it as well as I tell it, of course.
Fair. Yep.
But they remembered it. And that taught me, that was a lesson I had. People remember stories. They don't remember essays. Stories are sticky. Stories are able to remind you what to do. Sometimes they outflank your resistance to doing it. And there's exquisite range of things in stories. By the way, the story that they were remembering was about Rabbi Nathan in the Talmud. You may remember it. It's the first time he ever opens his mouth in the entire history of the Talmudic discussions. The sages are debating whether to go to the gladiatorial combats of ancient Rome. And of course they say, no, we must stay away from such horror and brutality. And Rabbi Nathan opens his mouth for the first time and says, we have to go. And they say to him, Mahasiba, which for those whose Aramaic may be rusty among your listeners, what's your reasoning? And he says, well, when the crowd shouts for the blood of the defeated gladiator and goes thumbs down, our job is to shout thumbs up. And in a world where despair and cynicism are all too easy to embrace, so what can heck will we do? To shout thumbs up, I think that's a perfect job description from which there's no retirement. At any rate, that story's not in the book, at least not in this iteration of the book. But there's 9 stories in here, 40 pages, each of them illustrated. In every one of them, I like to think, focuses on empathy and compassion, which are matters in short supply in our world. And my hope is that they engender cross-generation conversation. Because either a young child can read it. It's meant up to 6th grade in terms of reading level, or a parent could read it, grandparent, and share it with. In fact, my favorite blurb. Books have blurbs on the back.
Yes. Yes.
So we have 4 grandchildren. The third in line, who at the time was 9, said, "I love Pop Pop's book, and I think you will too." That's Max. And then Ray, his little brother, who was 6 at the time. My big brother is right. Our grandfather's book is terrific. Now, what greater endorsement could you possibly have?
That is a wonderful endorsement.
Yeah, now there are some fancy schmancy people who did, but they don't count as much as my grandchildren.
No. So early in your career, you learn these stories stick with people.
Right.
And they bear repeating. Because there are absolutely things I learned about how to approach life Jewishly that are stories I heard you or Rabbi Shulman tell. Mm-hmm. Like I really think a lot still about, there was a special event around the time that Terry Schiavo was in the news. Mm-hmm. And teaching about the idea of a time when a person is goseis. Mm-hmm. And then the story of a rabbi who was on his...
For those who don't know, goseis means a person's a long time in a dying condition, from which it's likely there will be no recovery.
And that a rabbi was on their deathbed, and his students were around him praying to extend his life, and his housekeeper came in and dropped a water pitcher, stopping the prayer and allowing him to pass. And that in that situation where there's 10, 15 students praying for his life, it was her who created the distraction and allowed him to die, who had done the mitzvah.
Yeah. And in fact, and the tradition, by the way, it's Rabbi Judah Hanassi, you can't get more important than him, than he. But her action is considered praiseworthy because she removed an external obstacle that prevented him from passing out of this world.
Right.
Because Judaism's got much more complexity when it comes to removing interventions that are present in the person. But
yeah.
That next time we have a thing on medical ethics, we can talk about that. Yeah.
Right. But that was near, November I hit 20 years since I went to mikveh. So y'all,
oh my.
It's been 20 years.
It's 20 years?
20 years.
Oh.
Yep.
Be still, my beating heart.
But that's like it's such a vivid picture, and so I just say it to say, yeah, the short stories are such an important way to learn how to live.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree with you more, and it's why the stories in this book matter to me. And in fact, it's among the reasons why editors can be really helpful. I want to give you an illustration and then a reflection. The illustration is one of the stories in the book is, I think the title is A Reason to Be Late. And it's about two little girls, as it happens. I'm the father of daughters, so. And they're coming home from school, and one of them, her favorite toy, breaks. And in my original telling, the other child stays to cry with her, to comfort her, and she gets home late, and her parents are angry at her for being late until she explains, I stayed with Becky to ask us Betsy in the book to because her toy broke. Well, what could you do? You couldn't fix it, but I stayed to cry with her. But the parents are angry at her in my original telling for being late. The editor said, why don't you make them proud of her for being late? And I thought that was such an important and correct insight, that a parent ought to be proud of their child for wishing to be present in someone else's distress.
Yeah.
The other example is, this was of my own invention. Some listeners may know the name Arthur Schopenhauer, 19th century German philosopher, a genuine pessimist par excellence. In fact, probably the only authentically consistent anti-Judaism philosopher in history. He hated Judaism, didn't mind Jews. He hated Judaism. And the reason he hated it is because Judaism suggested a person can make a difference in the world. And he was under the spell of the Bhagavad Gita, which had just become available in translation in Europe. And, one of the issues at the heart of what we call imprecisely Eastern philosophy is that what is what is what is, and the only wisdom is to accept it, to surrender. And Judaism has this absurd notion that you can make a difference. He didn't like that. So he says human beings are like porcupines because it's cold out there. You know, before we went on the air, you were talking about your experience at the ice hotel. It's cold out there, and because it's cold, the porcupines come together to try to get warmth from each other, but the quills get in the way, so they retreat. But it's cold out there, back and forth, and always the quills get in the way until, like porcupines, we learn to live not too close and not too far. It's a very pessimistic view of human beings being isolates.
Yeah.
I suggested in my retelling, using that image, that we can remove quills.
Right.
Which I think we have the capacity to do. If nothing else, we can hug those who need the warmth of a human touch. So, and then there's stories about bullying, and because every child has had the experience of either being bullied or, alas, God forbid, being a bully.
Right.
Why does that happen? What can we do about it?
Yep.
And having conversations around it. Those are some of the stories in the book. You want to know more of the stories? I'm happy to tell you.
How have you been celebrating the launch?
Well, I've had a number of opportunities to speak in some venues. One of the fanciest one coming up in February. Oh, this is a story and a half. Okay.
Oh.
I was a guest speaker at the Pacific Association Reform Rabbis Convention last January.
Okay.
When there was some stuff going on in Los Angeles called the fires.
Oof. Yeah.
So the convention's in Palm Springs, and I learned the following lesson. You don't want to be the speaker the last day of a convention when an extraordinary number of the attendees are from Los Angeles. Because by the time it was my turn to speak, there were maybe 10 people left. Right? So as it happened, it was that afternoon, which meant I couldn't get back home until the next day. I had to stay an extra night because, as many will know, from West Coast to East Coast, it's always early in the morning. It's very hard to get a late flight unless it's a red eye. Yeah. And there were no red eyes in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
So I get up at 4:30 in the morning, go to the night manager and say, I guess I'm the first person you're seeing today. He said, no, there's been a steady stream of people from L.A. trying to come in to escape the fires. I get to the airport. I can't get a direct flight. I have to go Las Vegas to Kansas City.
Okay.
Now, I hope I'm not alone. Las Vegas is my least favorite airport in the whole world.
Yeah.
It's way too noisy. There's not a single healthy thing to eat in the whole airport. At any rate, I'm getting off the plane feeling very sorry for myself, and the person behind me says, excuse me, are you Rabbi Zedek? I said, yes. He said, I just finished reading your book. It's the not the new one, the other one, Taking Miracles Seriously. It's very interesting. I'm a professor at Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. Would you be interested in coming to speak? I said, would I be interested in coming to speak?
Of course.
Yes. So I'm doing 4 days in February, which will include People Are Like and Taking Miracles Seriously at Belmont. And then a few, there have been events here and there and everywhere, and also a profile in a magazine, a review that appeared in a Las Vegas magazine. So at the moment, the initial printing was 15,000 copies. I still think we have a few copies left.
Okay.
But just to run down real quickly, the stories in the book. One is people are like porcupines, people are like dogs, people are like fish, people are like monkeys, people can learn something from diamonds, people are like redwood trees, people are like God is the concluding one. And then I have a reason to be late, which is an effort to try to suggest that even when we can't do anything, we can do something. And then because the publisher said, it's very expensive to publish a children's book because it's in full color. He wanted 40 pages. So one of the stories in there, which has also got this lesson about empathy and compassion, is the first story I ever told as a rabbi. I made it up. It's Harry the Hippo. it's essentially a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer story.
Right.
Harry is teased by all the other animals for being so heavy. He only has one friend, a bald eagle, who's teased for being palate challenged. And they go to the wise owl to get advice. Every one of us has a talent. Just need to celebrate it and embrace it.
Yeah.
And then there's a fire, and Harry's great weight, it makes it possible for all the other animals to survive. And they feel sorry that they were such SOBs. But, so that's the penultimate story. The last one is based on a true story that happened to me in Kansas City many years ago. I'm walking out of a family service, and the dirty little secret, Leah, I'm going to tell you the dirty little secret of a family service is the rabbi or the other clergy of other isn't speaking to the kids. They're speaking to the parents, pretending they're speaking to the kids.
Yep.
So this lovely little girl said, Mommy, the rabbi, and by the way, everyone could hear her because she was using her outdoor voice in the sanctuary. Mommy, the rabbi confused me. And I thought, oh my God, this is terrible. She's going to say, honey, he confuses everybody. What's the big deal?
Right.
Instead, the mommy said, why is that, honey? And the little girl said, Mommy, the rabbi said God is bigger. Now, she said than us. I wish she had said than we are, because that would be the more proper grammar. But she said than us. And the mommy said, that's right, honey, God is bigger than us. And no matter where a listener might be on the God idea, the universe is clearly a lot bigger than we are. So, and yes, God's bigger than we are. But Mommy, the rabbi said there's a part of God in every one of us. And that's one of the amazing, chutzpahdik, outrageous claims that Jewish tradition brings to the world. To put it in less theological language, every human being is of infinite value. There's a part of God in every one of us. And the mommy said, that's right, honey. And then I think she was 4 years old. What for me is the most brilliant theological statement I've heard thus far in my life. She said, Mommy, if God is bigger than us and God lives in us, wouldn't God show through? And we've all known people like that. We might not use that language.
Yeah.
But there's something exquisite or beautiful or attractive or exciting, or to use the simple word, they're filled with enthusiasm. And I use that word intentionally because for those whose Greek is rusty, enthusiasm comes from the Greek word enthusiasmos. It means to be full of God. Now, your Hebrew isn't badly, as I remember. So you may know that the Hebrew word that is translated into English as enthusiasm is hit la'avut. It literally means to be on fire. And maybe others get warmed by the fire that we express, and that could start a spontaneous combustion. That wouldn't be a bad idea.
It wouldn't be bad.
Anyway, those are some of the stories in the book. You want one more?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, one of the things that's fascinating to me about redwood trees is, in addition to being among the most long-lived living things on our planet, they're also the tallest things on our planet. And if an engineer were to be consulted, redwood trees couldn't possibly grow as tall as they grow because their root network is too shallow. In fact, I don't know if this will show up, but that's the illustrator's notion of the root network. And
nice.
if you
I like those hearts in the middle.
There's the heart in the middle. Yeah, but redwood trees never consulted with an engineer. They've solved the problem. They literally, and it's one of the rare times when we use the word literally correctly, they literally hold each other up. They intertwine their roots, which is to say, I can't get taller unless I help you get taller as well. Whereas most of us live in a world in which if I make you smaller, I get bigger.
Yep.
Whether it's clicks or insult, it's all too much the rhythm of far too many lives, and it never works, which is why we do it over and over again, because the full expression of what I need, namely some self-esteem that comes from inward, cannot happen unless I'm working to uplift others as well.
Yeah.
I think that's a great discussion to have with a kid.
And some
Boy, does it feel better than I'm telling you.
Wonderful. And where can people get this book?
Well, if you're in the greater Kansas City area, it's available in a number of bookstores. It's available at the Kansas City airport. It's available at a series of shops called Made in Kansas City. But at the moment, the only way I know for others to get it is on Amazon.
Yep.
Boo-hiss or otherwise, right?
Yep.
It's an amazing instrument. It does have it. In fact, reminds me of a story, because as you know, most things remind me of a story. In September, I gave a series of sermons at the largest United Methodist church, certainly in North America, maybe the world, has 20,000 members.
Wow.
4 sermons, 7:30, 9 o'clock, 11, and 5 p.m. Thank God for tea, otherwise I would never made it.
Did you give the same sermon 4 times or 4 different sermons?
Well, it was the same theme, but it was extemporaneous, so it was
Okay.
sort of like, you know.
Okay.
And the senior minister wanted me to speak about the first book, which he had purchased 150 copies of. Mm-hmm. Now, when I left for the 7:30 service, Taking Miracles Seriously was plus or minus on Amazon the 300,000th best-selling book in the country. Mm-hmm. They sold out of the 150, and then he directed people to go to Amazon, and Amazon then sold out, a waiting list, right? When I got home that evening, it was the 3,000th best-selling book in the country, and it was number 1 in a whole bunch of categories, and they put bestseller by it.
Ooh.
But here's the thing that was fascinating to me, why I'm telling this story, even though there's immodesty behind it. When I left for Sunday morning, the book was selling for $13.
Uh-huh.
Now that they had sold out, it was selling for $20. That's the marketplace at its most common and probably least positive. But
yeah, at its most digital.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's outstanding.
Yeah, I agree, and outstanding, and they are mild. You're too young to know that. It was some cigarette commercial.
Yeah, I'm far too young.
Yes, absolutely, and you shouldn't know it. But,
No. Well, great. I hope that.
By the way, when you were in the Scandinavian countries, I was at B'nai Yehuda, at Emmanuel.
For Hanukkah. Yeah.
For Hanukkah, and we sold 24 of the books.
Great.
Which was one case, but.
Yeah. Yeah, it is not just a Hanukkah book. It's one that people should get for whatever the young people or people that are young at heart in their lives. Mm-hmm. It is not a specifically Jewish book.
It's a values book.
It's a values book. And beautifully illustrated. Did you, for the people are like dogs, did you give her pictures of Jake?
Oh, that's so sweet of you. No. For those who Jake was our amazing golden retriever, a rescue dog that rescued us as well. Mm-hmm. And it was just, it's so, Leah, I'm so grateful that you remember him, because he's been gone a long time.
He's been gone a long time.
Our hearts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
he was with us. He was with us the day that you. Jake was with us the day you said I could go to Beit Din.
Yeah. Well, now I know why you remember. That's for sure. So let me get to the dog. There's the fish, and here's the dogs.
Aww.
I would say more Labrador Retrieverish, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But he's got Jake's coloring. Jake was a frequent employee at B'nai Yehuda, at Emmanuel. What is it? It must be, I'm doing services tonight at B'nai Yehuda here in Kansas City. That must be why it's on my mind.
Yeah.
And on top of that, don't tell anyone. I don't know whether I'm going to wear a tie or not. And if I don't, it will be the first time I've ever led a service without wearing a tie. So let's take a vote.
That seems impossible. You've led services at camp. You put on a tie for Shabbat at camp?
That doesn't count. I mean, come on.
You wear a tie at every service you've led in Israel. You wore a tie? In Kansas City, you wear a tie for services because it's more formal. And in Chicago, because it's more formal.
Yes.
Okay.
So what do I do tonight?
So in between the Appalachian and the Rocky Mountains, you've never led services without a tie on.
Well... I throw myself on the mercy of the court. Oh, it reminds me of a great story. We got time for one more
We
story?
got time for one more.
Right. Now, I think you've heard this one. It's about a rabbi by the name of Chafetz Chaim. Chafetz Chaim. It means the one who desires or intoxicated with life. He's called as a character witness for one of his students who's on trial in Poland. And some may know that in Europe, it's not always trial by jury. It's oftentimes just trial by a judge, or 3 judges, or a judge and 2 lay people. At any rate, the defense attorney introduces the rabbi to the judge by suggesting why he's calling him. And he says, "Judge, you know what the Jews say about this man? He is so saintly that on one occasion he had returned home and found that a thief had broken in. And the thief, surprised by the rabbi's sudden return, ran away. The rabbi runs after him, shouting, 'I declare all of my property ownerless, all of my property ownerless.' It's a Talmudic category, which if it's ownerless, there's no crime." By the way, aside, sounds very much like Jean Valjean in Les Miserables, when he's brought back and the bishop says, "You forgot the other candlestick." But
Right. Yep.
back to the story. He said, the judge peers down at the defense attorney and says the following: "You don't really believe that, do you?" And the defense attorney says, "I don't know, Judge, but this much I do know. They don't tell stories like that about you or me." So, quite clearly, unpacking it, they'll tell stories about us. Are those the stories we want them to tell? And with that, I conclude this moment for the sermon hour. Leah, it's a great delight for me to see you, to
I
welcome
love
you
getting
back
to catch
home.
up. Thank you.
And thank you so much for giving people an opportunity to know a little bit more about the book. I hope you buy it. I hope you buy it. I hope you buy it. That's what do they call that? Subliminal marketing.
Subliminal marketing, yes. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, I think you should shock everyone in Kansas City and not wear a tie tonight.
It's a deal.
All right. Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Zedek.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
Thank you.